we also want to focus on a cancer drug that has been kind of making some headlines across the country and in the Gulf Coast.
Right. So, as you know, I just got back from a National Trial Lawyers convention out in Los Angeles, and this was one of the topics. And so this is one of the things that we're seeing more and more of in terms of litigation, and that is the fact that these drugs have been used basically for some time, and they're marketed specifically to doctors who prescribe them unknowingly to people who have been diagnosed primarily with breast cancer, and it causes devastating permanent disfigurement, and that in these women suffer permanent hair loss. A lot of them are young women in their 30s, 40s, 50 years old. Now, a lot of people, when I first heard about these cases, said, well, look, you're still alive. Maybe it's not such a big deal. But sort of the sinister thing behind it, Kenny, is we believe is that there are competitor drugs that were available that provided the same benefit, in fact, a little better benefit than these drugs without ever causing permanent hair loss. And these particular manufacturers, this drug, and their European manufacturers, hid the fact that it caused hair loss in a significant number of people from doctors and from the patients. And so people had alternatives that were safer, that would let them keep their hair, beat the cancer, but they weren't told about it, and we would believe it was done basically for greedy market share.
I got you. So they deliberately didn't say. And this and the drug you're referring to is Taxotere.
Taxotere.
I'm saying that correctly.
Taxotere. You are saying
that doesn't sound too bad.
And so the problem is, you know, and what we know is that they warned the FDA equivalent of Europe about this problem over 10 years ago, and so they knew it in Europe. And recently, the FDA late last year required them for the first time to put a warning on it in this country, despite the fact that they had been warning in Europe about it for years.
10 years. So if you were going through treatment, you would at least have had the option of saying, hey, look, I know maybe this drug works good for me, but I would permanently lose. And look, hair loss is,
and what studies tell us, Kenny, is women that undergo chemotherapy, a significant number of women will not undergo chemotherapy because of the temporary hair loss. It's that big a deal, particularly for women and particularly for younger women. So this is a devastating injury to be permanently disfigured in this way with no hair, and quite often it comes out and it grows back in patches, and it's very disfiguring and very disheartening for women who've already been through a tremendous battle.
Anne, good evening. What can we help you with?
Well, first, thank you so much for having a show on this topic. I appreciate it. As a woman, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Anne.
If I decide to pursue a lawsuit, how long do I have?
Great question, Anne. That's probably the most common question we get on LawCall, but not for a medical one. That's an interesting.
For medical and all kinds, of course, we talk about it all the time here, that your rights, any type of right to bring a claim, is generally limited. And so you don't have forever to bring them, and it can be complicated and complex in a medical case. Because not to belabor the point in too much detail, but it depends on when you knew or should have known that you had a potential case or potential problem with the drug. So it's going to depend in various on the drugs when it became widely known that it was a problem, or when you may have been specifically told by your doctor or others there's a problem. But the lesson in that is never wait. If you have experienced permanent hair loss, in general they talk about hair loss that hasn't hair that hasn't come back after 18 months of the chemotherapy treatment being over, being permanent. If you're in that situation and you don't know whether you took Taxotere or some other drug, you should go ahead and contact an attorney. I would advise you to do it immediately because you don't know when the statute potentially could be held to run, and time is not generally on your side.
Jim, is this one of these that they're thinking about maybe going class action with, or is this kind of still individuals out there?
Well, based upon the market share that Taxotere had in this country, that is the amount of drug that was sold, and the percentage of people that we think have probably experienced permanent hair loss, we think it's going to be hundreds or probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands of cases out there. So in all likelihood, at some point, typically these types of cases get consolidated in front of a single court, so you have consistency of rulings.
But I'm a little early.
This is sort of early on. That has not happened.
Good evening, ma'am. What can we help you with?
Good evening. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
I took Taxotere. I had breast cancer, and the doctor told me that I was going to have a little hair loss. But I had all my hair came out in the second treatment of it, and it hadn't grown back. It just in patches, but it haven't been 18 months yet. But it's been almost a year.
Well, almost a year. Evelyn, here's Here's what I'd suggest to you, and what I said to the other caller. You need to contact an attorney and probably Monday morning. It sounds like you have a classic case of this, and I don't know if you're on the phone, but I bet you weren't told, because probably your doctor wasn't even told, that Taxotere causes permanent hair loss in a very significant number of the patients who receive it, and that there's a safer alternative that wouldn't cause hair loss. And so it sounds like you have a classic case, and our office would love to talk to you. If you'd call Monday morning, we'll tell you what your rights are. You decide whether you want to proceed with the claim, but if you're a year out without any significant hair growth, you likely have a case, especially if you know you took Taxotere.
She's in that window.
It really, and it's terrible. And Evelyn, I hope your cancer's proceeding well and you're recovering well. But this is something that you shouldn't have been put upon you. This company did this, in my opinion, simply to sell the drug.
All right, we're going to go to Kay now. Kay, good evening. What can we help you with?
Hey, guys.
Hi, Kay.
I had breast cancer back in 2007.
Okay.
And I was given Taxotere. Nothing was ever said to me about it having permanent hair loss. However, my hair has come back in.
Good.
But it's a lot thinner.
Yeah.
Could I still be
great question.
considered?
Yes. And the short answer to that is yes. Let me ask you, how long has it been since your chemotherapy treatment has ceased?
April of 2008.
Okay. So you've gotten all this you're going to get back. This is the kind of thing, at this point in time, we're looking at all these cases, so it's a matter of severity. And what we'd imagine is at some point, if there's a global resolution, that obviously someone who had permanent hair loss that was complete or near complete would have a more significant case, but someone with significant thinning is likely to have a significant case as well, probably not as much as someone, obviously, who's lost everything. But yes, you probably have a case, and if you took it in 2008, this is where I talk about the statute of limitations being tricky, and it's particularly tricky in Mississippi, and you need to have an attorney talk to you about it, look at it, obtain your medical records as quickly as possible, because if you took the drug that long ago, I promise you at some point defendants will argue that, well, when you knew when your hair didn't come back, you should have known you had a claim, those kind of things. And so you need to aggressively look into this. And I'll be glad to talk to you again, or a lot of other attorneys do this kind of work as well, talk to you for free and see what we can do. But it sounds like you probably got a claim, and probably a significant claim.
Kay, let me ask you this, if you're still with us. Sue, as soon as we started the show tonight, we said this drug's name, you recognized it then.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of
it's widely prescribed. Has been. It has very significant. It's only really two sort of drugs that they provide for this type of cancer. One is this drug. The other one I won't mention, but it is considered the much better drug, the much preferred, and does not cause permanent hair loss in the vast majority of women. And it's quite honestly, tests have shown it's more effective. And so. This is the tragedy of this. Information is knowledge, and people like who've called tonight, and even their doctors, were deprived by this company of the knowledge and the ability to make a decision. Hi, Maria.
Hey, first off, thank you all for sharing this information with us. I have a friend. I don't have cancer, but I have a friend who is receiving cancer treatments now. I'm not sure if she's received this medicine, but I'm going to check with her. And if she has, should she talk to an attorney now, or should she wait to see if her hair grows back?
Good question. Very
good question. I would go ahead and talk to an attorney. If you're undergoing chemotherapy and you think you may have been exposed to this drug, there's no downside to going ahead and talking to an attorney. They can go ahead and obtain things like records. A lot of times it takes a long time to do that, and identifying the product sometimes takes more work than you might think to know that you've got the particular brand that's in question. So I would go ahead and contact an attorney. An attorney probably won't file the lawsuit until you determine whether your friend actually has permanent hair loss. If you have an attorney in mind, you would know what your rights are. You'd know what the potential side effects that you may be looking for. And look, it's just better to know than not.